what is it that you would do for the rest of your life if you didn't need money, but you had to do something to keep living, right? And often people know the answer to this, but what stops them from vocalizing it, right, and putting it out there, even putting it down on paper, is
Hi, welcome back everyone. So today I have a real treat for y'all. So today I have with us the co-founder of Kaizen Fitness, a certified strength and conditioning coach, a nutritional coach, a certified life coach, and most importantly, an amazing person to be around with. Do join me in welcoming Shuaib Jabbar. How are you doing, Shuaib? How are you doing?
I am doing fabulous. Thank you so much for those extremely generous words. And I'm really excited to be here as well. And I love the fact that we're going to be having a discussion because I do believe that I too stand a lot to learn from this. And I think that's what I'm most excited about.
Superb, super amazing. So without any further ado, let's get to it. So something that has really taken me a lot, Shuaib, and something that we see around, especially in social media, a couple of things that are thrown around a lot are purpose, passion, and potential. For some people, these may be buzzwords, but for some people, these actually mean so much more. So perhaps let's use that as a start, and let's start with what is each of them. So let's start with passion, there, Shoaib, and then likewise let's go on one after the other. Passion, purpose, and potential. Let's start with passion. So when you
Right.
say passion, what is
Yeah.
passion, and what does it mean to people, and what could it mean as well? Over to you, Shoaib.
Right. So thank you. Those three words, passion, purpose, and potential, I think what makes it something easy to be thrown around, maybe even irresponsibly or as buzzwords, as well as what makes it something difficult to comprehend, in my opinion, is fundamentally the fact that it is not exactly quantifiable, right? It's not something that you can technically fill a chart on, or measure. I mean, you could say, okay, on 1 to 10, how passionate am I? But it's just an arbitrary measure, really, right? A way of helping yourself gauge. But your six might not be my six, right? So this is what I feel creates that whole ability for it to be misunderstood, misinterpreted, and also for sometimes for it to be something a little bit intimidating, right? Because we can't really, the human mind, when we can't understand something and we can't comprehend it, we either try to protect ourselves from it or we try to attack it and get rid of it, right? So some people will say, you know what, screw passion, screw purpose, there are things you need to do in life, just get with it. You don't need to be passionate, you don't have to do something that you believe is in line with your purpose. Just go to school, get the degree, get a job, earn money, make a family, done, right? And then there's also people who are so overwhelmed by it that they're crippled. Like they can't get along their lives because they're so worried about finding their passion, they're so worried about finding their purpose, right? So and even discovering their potential, for that matter, right? So let's start, as you mentioned, with the word passion. So passion, very simply, to me, is something that you like a lot. Like, I'm just trying to keep it really simple, right? For example, you like ice cream, but there are some people who are passionate about ice cream, right? They don't just want to eat ice cream, they want to know how to make it. They see ice cream as what brings joy to people's lives. They want to open a cafe, and they want to create an environment where when you walk in, everybody who comes in there loves ice cream. People talk about ice cream, they don't just eat it, they talk about the flavors, how it melts in your mouth, and that's passion. But saying, I like to have ice cream is different to say, I love ice cream. I just could eat ice cream all day long, right? So I mean, in a very sort of basic sense, that's what passion is what I would define passion as, right? And I think that's an easy way that all of us could understand what the meaning of passion is. So that can differ from person to person. So I hope that answers your question of defining the word passion.
Yeah, I think that made a lot of sense there. Shoaib, basically having that emotional connection, perhaps sometimes even more than emotional at times, to something that you may like or even that dislike at times. So when you mentioned ice cream, like, of course, I remember the ice cream that I would like to have. But on the same note, it also drew reminded me of a particular book I read, Pour Your Heart Into It by Howard Schultz. So he's the former CEO of Starbucks. So you can like coffee. I like coffee. Someone else like coffees, and so on and so forth. But what made the difference between liking coffee and building a empire on coffee is what that's what passion can do. And I think you really nailed it right there, Shuaib. And passion can really create something for you, and in a way it could also direct a person towards that end goal as well. So for instance, let's just take that ice cream example as well. You could be selling ice cream, say outside a particular office, but you could also be selling ice cream, say in a top-notch hotel, or you could be creating art out of ice cream, like at the highest level. So it's totally different levels on how you can take it. But certainly the person who has that innate passion in whatever he or she is doing, in a way he or she won't have to work at all, because it's inside of them. It's something that they would like to do, and regardless of whether they're going to be getting a paycheck or not. So hats off to that, and to everyone out there.
I also think that what you mentioned about people liking it, loving it, and doing it. And at the beginning we mentioned about how sometimes people can get overwhelmed by what's my passion, what's my passion, what's my passion. But I always tell people when I coach them in terms of finding your passion is, what do you like what do you enjoy doing? And the question I always throw at them is, if you didn't need money, like you didn't need money, you were covered, you had everything, right? You had all the stuff that you wanted and needed. I mean, you're not just going to lie in bed all day. You're going to do something. It could be playing video games. It could be traveling, whatever it is. What is it that you would do for the rest of your life if you didn't need money, but you had to do something to keep living, right? And often people know the answer to this. But what stops them from vocalizing it, right, and putting it out there, even putting it down on paper, is their I would say the value that they assign to society's judgment of it, right? Like if I say I'm passionate about ice cream, would people judge me to think, I'm somebody who's kind of shallow, like, come on, passionate about ice cream? What the hell is that kind of thing?
Yeah,
right?
true.
Yeah, but that's what it is. We all already know to some extent. I do agree, because I've dealt with clients who do not know what their passion is, and it's a legit feeling. But the reason they don't know what they're passionate about is they haven't tried enough things yet in order to expose themselves to something that triggers that, oh, damn, I could do this for the rest of my life kind of vibe, right? But more often than not, people know it. Some people love playing video games. Some people love working out. Some people love creating content, right? But what stops them is thinking, but I can't make a living out of this. Or something like, like I said, what would people think if my passion is ice cream? Like, what does that even mean? Does that mean I'm a lower value human being? Does that mean like I'm worthless? What does that mean, right? Or stuff like anyone can make ice cream, so that's not something I should be passionate about. Something that's hard, something that's cool, that's hip happening. No, that's not what passion is. Passion is doing what you, like you said, right, what you would do even if you weren't getting a paycheck for, right? So I think it's important for us to touch on that, because the other people listening to this, and they know what their passion is, but they're immediately turning it off, saying, no, that's not my passion. That's not my passion. It is your passion. You're just not accepting it. All right.
There you go. And like you said as well, sometimes they just know it. It's like buried deep down inside of them. Say what opinions their family has about it, opinions about what society has to say about it, opinions about perhaps sometimes even what their friends have to say about it. It's just all those naysayers. They hear those whispers, and sometimes you need to really silence that crowd and need to listen to yourself. Okay, what do I want to do? Like, regardless of, like you said as well, regardless of whether you are going to earn a living out of it or not, it's about what you want to do. And whoever, like, we never know. Sometimes that may lead, following that passion may lead to a whole different road. But of course, we need to be realistic as well. Of course, like, we need to set clearly articulated plans of how this is going to work out, so on and so forth. Of course, we can come back to this. But like, perhaps coming back on that ice cream example, if someone at some point in time was not really passionate about ice cream, we won't be having Haagen-Dazs. We won't be having Baskin Robbins. We won't be having Quality Walls. We won't be having Magnum ice cream. I mean, the list goes on. Because at the end of the day, someone had to be passionate at some point in time about making people happy. So it's really about what you want to do. So uh, yeah, let's get straight to it. I think we got off to a rocking start over there, Shuaib. So we touched on passion, and you touched on it as well, on how sometimes not knowing what your passion is, it's completely fine. You sometimes it you may just need to be you need to expose yourselves to a lot of different things perhaps at the start before you really find your passion. So for instance, I may have started playing basketball, but that may not be that first sport that I picked up, may not be my sport. I may have to say try out another sport before eventually finding that sport that clicks. So finding your passion may be something similar, and that itself is a journey on its own, kind of related to a journey of self discovery. And along those lines, let's touch on purpose. But before coming to purpose, something that really I came across was, sometimes when you ask a person what is your passion, that itself is like, whoa, what do you even mean? Something that I came across was that sometimes rephrasing it to say, what makes your heart sing? Just think about it. What makes your heart sing? Not your face, but your heart sing. Something that will make you happy inside when with the rest of the world not really looking at you. I think that's an amazing way of looking at it. But on the same note, it's even more deep inside of you. You really need to find it. So let's use that as a stepping point, and let's go to the next part of it. Purpose. What do you have to say about it?
I think you used some words which I always use very intentionally when I talk about purpose. And those words are journey, which you did, right? And what you said about it being a journey, it being a discovery, right? All of that. Because when you talk about passion, like you said, the word's really heavy. The word is very heavy. And with passion and even purpose, both of these, I feel like there are common misunderstandings. And number one is the fact that passion or purpose is something like a destiny, meaning once you get there, you're there, right? And the fact that you can't change your passion, you can't change your purpose, right? Like, because if you change your purpose, that means you don't know what you're doing. You keep changing your purpose all the time, right? And there's so much of these pressures, again, created by us and society, not that it's an actual pressure, to narrow down and do this one thing, right? And that's one issue that I see. Another issue that I see in the areas of passion and purpose is the fact that we overvalue the short term and we undervalue the long term, right? We put so much pressure to find this thing called passion and purpose in the short run because we're worried that if we don't discover it right now in this moment, that every second I live from this point forward, I'm wasting my life. But in reality, you end up wasting about 20 years just putting that pressure on yourself, not really trying other things, worried about the judgment that other people might have, right? And what I like about the word journey is it's open. It's open, right? You don't know the exact route. You have an idea where you want to go to, but you don't know the exact route. You could come across obstacles. You may have to take a different route, right? Sometimes Google Map shows you one way, but when you go, you realize that road does not exist anymore. Yeah, there's traffic, right? All kinds of fun stuff happens, right? Or it's navigating you in the wrong direction because your signal dropped at one point, right? So many different things. So finding your passion, finding your purpose is just like navigating yourself on Google Maps, right? You're trying to go where you think you need to go, right? And you're trying to go there the best way you know. And that's all you need to do. You need to be trying to figure it out. That's what it is. And even for those of us out there who've been fortunate enough to find what we think right now in this moment is our passion or our purpose, we should yet be open to change it, right? We should yet be open to change it. And this is true even when it comes to changing something we said in the past, right? In our industry, in strength and conditioning, people always, come back at you. Say, for example, you say, don't squat with your knees passing your toes. It's bad. Right? Everybody's like, all right, this is the thing. We don't squat without our knees. And, it's the new buzz in the industry, so on and so forth. And then 6 months later, the same person who said, don't let your knees go in front comes and says, you know what? it's actually all right to let your knees go in front while you're squatting, as long as the primary movement is not you moving your knees forward. You're trying to execute a movement which requires your knees to go in front. But it's not that your knees are moving in front because you lack flexibility or mobility or strength. You're intentionally moving your knees. And then people are like, no, no, no. See, you can't do this. You said that this was it, right? We'll never trust you ever again. And what coaches always say is, should we be penalized for bettering ourselves, right? We gave you the best piece of advice, knowledge, information based on all the available research and all of that. It's not just something you woke up and said. You've done your research, you've studied, you've exploited it, you've used it, all of that, and you know it's good. But new research shows you otherwise, right? And you should have that humility to accept, okay, what I knew earlier is now outdated. I need to upgrade, right? So you got to change. You can't penalize people for becoming better, right? Sometimes people change, right? And I remember reading recently, I was reading Jay Shetty's book, Think Like a Monk.
Think Like a Monk,
and what he said is, I was this line where he said that accepting or being embarrassed to a certain extent about your past is not necessarily a bad thing, because it means that where you are today is a higher place. You've developed as a human being. Back then, when you did or said what you did or said, you were doing your best at that point with what you knew, who you were, right? But today you've grown. And now when you look at that, you're like, oh, I wish I didn't do that. I shouldn't have said that. That's a good thing. That's a good thing, right? That's your conscience telling you that the earlier you was not as good as who you are today. And you shouldn't be penalized for becoming better. And the same is true for passion and purpose. It's a journey. You do not have to call out one thing as your passion or your purpose and then be scared to change it. With every experience, with every exposure that you have in your life, well, guess what? Your perspective is going to change, right? How you look at people, how you look at situations and things is going to change. So then if you don't change your passion or your purpose, you might be outdated or irrelevant.
For sure, there, Shuaib. I think we covered a superb array of different areas just under that umbrella. And something that you just touched on, how we need to update ourselves. So people don't think twice about, upgrading to the latest iOS, upgrading to the latest Android OS, upgrading to the latest iPhone, say within a month, oh my gosh, I need to get that iPhone, so on and so forth. But what about upgrading ourselves? It's about, always getting that latest material thing that may be outdated in the next year, and then another device may come up, in next time you look in the market. But think about this body or vessel that we are going to be living in. It is there's so much potential in it. There's so much inherent qualities that each of us have, and to a large extent, most of them are unique. And these are features that we need to inculcate and improve as we progress in life. And you touched on it as so brilliantly there as well. Sometimes we do need to change. Coming back to the example of the Google Maps that we touched on, it's okay to be rerouted when there's traffic.
Exactly.
And there's always more than one route, and sometimes there's more than one ways to reach Rome. And all roads lead you to Rome. But however, it's not always Rome that you need to go to. There's so many different areas and different parts that you could explore that we could only realize once we explore these different parts. And perhaps that understanding, allowing yourself to fail, can in a way give you that license that you need to try out new things. Because sometimes just being stuck in one or two things, we kind of maybe limiting ourselves in, kind of preventing ourselves from reaching that full potential that we ought to reach at some point. So each of us have this one life, we're going to be here for so many years. And what's that dent that we could leave before we, move on? I mean, when I say move on, we die.
Yeah.
What's that?
Move down.
Move down. So that's something that I think a lot as well. What is that we do now that would be relevant 100 years from now? Not even say 100 years from now, even 10 years from now. That's something that makes me think as well, because some people are pretty content with doing their 9 to 5, as long as, say, some people, it's like it's really tied to what they want to do. It could be, creating a greener environment that that their children would like to live in. For some people it may be, oh my gosh, I back in when they were putting man on the moon, JFK asked the janitor, right, what are you doing? And the janitor said, I'm putting a man on the moon. So
Correct.
it's just how everything is tied to that, that that single goal and vision, and how all of these actually interrelated. And sometimes it's okay to go and ask help. It just, but no one would know that you're asking for help unless you go and ask them. And I
For
feel
sure.
that is something that a lot of people don't really understand and may not even take that first step. And sometimes they may need a small push here and there as well. So wow, that's a, like, I mean, this opens so many doors. And it's just like, how can we go in navigating this journey is actually a lot of decisions that we take in life. And in taking those decisions, we ultimately want to reach our full potential. So based on that understanding, Shoaib, what would you say about, people talking about potential? Again, this is another buzzword that is thrown around a lot. What would you say about people reaching their potential, and how having really understood that their passion, what drives them, and their purpose could ultimately help them reach their potential? And how sometimes you can say, I've reached the top, I've reached my potential, but is that really true as well? Few things over there, Shoaib.
I know.
Over to you there. Over to you there, Shoaib.
All right. So personally, for me, I'm not that interested in potential. And the reason I say that is I've come across hundreds, if not thousands of people who have potential, who aren't doing squat, right? They've got potential, mad potential, be it physical, be it mental, be it emotional, whatever it is. But they choose to do nothing about it. And this is why, for me, in the hierarchy, I would always give number one and the most important spot for purpose, and then
Mm.
for passion. Because for me, what purpose is what you would do even if you had to die for it, right? Even
Mm.
if you had to die for it, even if you're hungry, even if you've got no job, even if you've got no pay, you will do anything and everything that you can in order to fulfill and stay true to your purpose in life, right? Your passion is a bonus point, because when you're using your passion to pursue your purpose, and this is a very interesting intersection to be in,
Mm.
when you're using your passion to go after or strive to achieve your purpose, and I use the word strive again intentionally, because to me, purpose is something you can't achieve. Purpose is something you can't achieve. It's like vision. If companies set visions that they can achieve in 5 years, that's not a vision, that's a goal. A vision is what a company is in existence for the rest of time. They keep getting closer, but you never really get there. Right?
Mm.
You never really get there. Like, say, for example, if someone's vision in Sri Lanka was to create a society that did not suffer from poverty, we know for a fact that that's not possible. 100% possible? No way. Yeah, you could reduce poverty to a certain extent, right? And you can keep progressing on that to a certain extent, but you will never really completely 100% eradicate poverty, right?
Mm.
But you can spend your entire life creating a movement that dedicates themselves towards that purpose.
Mm.
And there's one thing I'd like to add about purpose, and Simon Sinek is the one who pointed this out to me, is that purpose doesn't necessarily have to be something you created. It doesn't have to be something you create. Someone could have a purpose that resonates with you. For example, the poverty example. I come up tomorrow and say, guys, I want to dedicate the rest of my life to make sure that no person in Sri Lanka goes hungry. At least 2 meals a day they will eat. You could hear that and be like, damn, I would really love to be a part of that. Can I
Mm.
join you? Sure, come on, let's start a movement, right? And someone else might be like, as much as I'm doing my 9 to 5, I've always thought about these hungry people, and I've always wondered, is there something I can do? But I can't dedicate my whole self to it. But I could send some funds to your account. All of these people are after the same purpose. They're playing different roles, right? And that's why to achieve purpose, it's important to have teams, right? Purposes are huge things, right? These require teams, right? Teams that trust each other, people who work together, people who work towards a common cause that's greater than themselves in itself, right? So in that same example, I could die, say I'm really blessed and I live to 75 in good health, hopefully, and then I die, right? But my purpose doesn't end. My purpose still continues. There are people who joined me who were 25 when I was 75, who believe in that purpose and they carry it forward. The same is true for companies, right? The founders are dead, but the companies are sometimes hundreds of years, still running. And they're still running on that founder's vision, right? And purpose can be the same. Now, after purpose, I spoke about passion. And I said that if you can find that fine intersection, and I'll use myself as an example because I don't think I know anyone else better than myself, is the fact that I love working out. I love, developing my health, my fitness, my mindset, and all of that. And I'm extremely purposeful about inspiring, educating, and empowering people because I believe in that. Because I see a lot of people, for example, you could watch a motivational video or even something that I've done and be really riled up in the moment, but it dies down then, right? So that's why I realized that just being someone who inspires is not good enough, right? Just being someone who inspires is not enough. Inspiring people will get them off their chair, but then you need to educate them. Give them that knowledge that they need in order to see what you see. And the final step in what I believe is my purpose is empowerment. And empowerment is where you give them the toolkit. Right? The toolkit. So it shouldn't be something where they're dependent on me forever. There could be an interim period, but beyond that point, my clients need to be self-sufficient. They need to be able to even maybe replicate what I'm doing and get more people, because that's how I grow my purpose, my vision in life, right? So those 3 steps for me are really important, right? So what I've done is I've used my passion to pursue my purpose. My passion is working out. My passion is working on myself, developing my mind. I love it. I enjoy it. No one has to pay me to do that. You don't have to pay me to do that, right? And I'll find a way to do it, right? If I don't have equipment, I might do body weight. If I don't have body weight, I'll do something, right? Because I love it. I just enjoy it. Right? Some people hate doing it. Some people love it. And I happen to love it passionately, right? So what I've found is that fine intersection of using what I am passionate about in order to pursue my purpose, which is to inspire, educate, and empower people to live lives that they are passionate about, where they can be purposeful. So I don't come and tell them, this is what you should do with your life. No. I ask them, what do you want to do with your life? And if they don't know, then we use frameworks to help them uncover that, right? To ask themselves, because I can't tell anybody what their purpose is or even what their potential is, right? I can only ask them the right questions that will help them uncover and unpack who they are and what they are passionate about, their purpose of existence in this short life that we live. And then if you can use what you are passionate, it's funny, just last night I was doing this with one of my clients, right? Because he was telling me about what he enjoys doing, because I had given him a task, a bit of a self-discovery task for him to do over the weekend. And what the task was essentially was for him to tell me what he finds enjoyable, like what does he enjoy doing, right? And he said that was one of the hardest things he did in his life, to sit down and think about what he enjoyed. Because I kept it very open intentionally, because I've done this with clients before. And what I asked him was, I want you to take a pen and paper, sit down and write down what makes you happy. And he said he struggled. He struggled so much, right? This client came to me on the first day and said, before 30, I want to earn this much money. I want to make sure that I never have to worry about money ever again. These are the things I want to achieve. I stayed calm because I've dealt with many people like that. I said, wow, that's great. That's brilliant. Because there's nothing wrong in those, right? But this is about our 4th or 5th consultation. And in this session, I gave him this task. And then once he came back to me and said it was the hardest thing ever that he'd done, I was like, so you want to earn this amount of money and you want to have these things, but you don't even know what makes you happy. So what are you chasing ultimately?
It's about that,
mind it was mind changing for him. He immediately, I could hear him slowing down. That rat race inside of him was beginning to slow down because he's been running, not even knowing where he wants to get to, literally. All right. And anyway, many questions down into it, what we uncovered is that he enjoys working on himself. And specifically, the guy loves developing software, websites, so on and so forth. So I was like, cool. That's something you enjoy doing. You've made a career out of it. You earn money out of it. Brilliant. And he also said one thing that really makes me happy is helping people, right? And this you will find in anybody. Service is instilled in every human being. The level of fulfillment you can get in your life through service is not something that anything can get you. Be that the service to your creator, to the Almighty, or to the Almighty's creations. There is nothing, no amount of money, no title, no designation, no award that can top that. Right? And you see this in Richard Branson, you see this in Steve Jobs, you see this in Bill Gates. What do they do in the latter parts of their lives? Service. They just give everything in itself because they've reached the pinnacle in everything else and they know there's still something missing. And then they get into philanthropy. Big time. Some of them, people like Bill Gates, his main focus sometimes is the projects that he's working on, which is not to do with IBM, right? It's to do with philanthropy because he's understood it. He's got it. Right. And it took him that long. And I want to say that long because I want everybody listening to realize it's okay that you're 25, 30, 35, 40 and you still don't know it. Look at how old he is and he's figuring it out only now. All right. So this is what it is. Finding your purpose and then finding your passion and trying to see how you can kind of merge that in. Right. And you made a very good point at the start. You said it has to be practical. Yes. 100%, right? I can love to help people and I can do it for free. But if I do that, my capacity is limited. The number of people I can reach are limited. If I just put myself 100% in service and I don't take care of my health, I don't keep developing myself, how am I going to keep coming back? How am I going to keep serving people, right? Because I am the body of service, right? So if I do not take care of my body, my health, my mind, how on earth am I going? It's the classic thing of you can't pour from an empty vessel. Right. So that's where you need to find balance, like you said, and practicality. Look, I run a company that is to do with developing the health and fitness of people. Now, I don't run it as a charity, right? I've obviously run it in order to make profits, right? So I'm doing something I'm passionate about. I am empowering people by giving them the health set that they need in order to pursue their life's biggest mighty visions. Right. And I am earning enough money to make sure that I am fed, that I eat, that I take care of myself and the people under my, the people who are my responsibility. Right. So that practicality is extremely important, like you very correctly mentioned at the start. So that is why I say I give purpose the first place, because that is that fuel that drives you. Passion, because if you love what you're doing, it just makes all the hard work super easy. You said if you're doing something you're passionate, it's not like you're working. So you nailed it over there. And finally, we come to potential, which is what you asked me in the first place, right? The reason I wanted to give that explanation is I believe that if you have passion and purpose, potential is irrelevant, right? I believe we know that neuroplasticity is a thing. We know that we can expand our brains. We know that we can learn. How fast you learn might be different to how fast I learn, but you and I can both learn.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right? That is for sure. Right? Each person is different. Some people learn better visually. Some people with audio. Some people, they need to do it to learn. Right? That we call it kinesthetic learning, visual learning. And there's one more. Anyway.
I think that's something. Audio. I think it's an important point that you touched there, Shuaib, is that how I think everyone needs to hear this is that there's no based on Carol Dweck's book about the growth mindset. It's each of us. So there's this fixed mindset where when a person thinks that he or she is limited by their abilities, and then we have the growth mindset. It's all about improving ourselves, be it in our health set, our heart set, our mindset, so on and so forth. So it's really about finding that extra inch. How can we get better? And ultimately, you were like, sorry, I interrupted you over there, but
no.
It's about how once you understand your purpose and once you manage to have it sync to your potential, and once you find that merge, reaching your potential, it's almost like a freebie, but of course you need to work for it.
For sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Shoaib. Sorry, I interrupted you
Yes,
there.
no. Perfect. I mean, it was a definite value addition, much needed, right? And I think in what you mentioned about fixed mindset and growth mindset, another important thing for us to understand there is not all of us are completely fixed mindset and none of us are completely growth mindset.
Hmm.
We have areas in our life that we have adopted a growth mindset and areas of our life that we've settled for a fixed mindset, right? And I think that's important to understand because that gives hope. Because if I can get this in one area, that means I can
Hmm.
get it in another area as well. For example, take me for example. In school, I played rugby, so I did sports. For me, I have a growth mindset when it comes to developing my physical strength because I've done it. I know I can do it, right? I know I can study, I can learn, I can implement. I know the systems, so I know I can always keep growing. There's never an end to it, right? But say, for example, I was somebody who didn't do any academics at all, just basic, managed to get to my O levels, A levels. And I have a fixed mindset that studies are not for me. I can't do this. Right? And it's kind of ironic because the same steps and principles I use to get good at my physical strength is exactly what I need to be using in order to develop my mental
Hmm.
capabilities, right? So it's funny, but we don't see this, right? We don't see this, we don't see that. So I think that's really important what you mentioned about growth mindset and the fixed mindset. So using the growth mindset, we can, if we know what our purpose is, if we know what our passion is, whatever the gap, we have the ability, we already have the potential to bridge that, right? None of us have the skill set to get there, but in educating ourselves and understanding that you can learn, you can change, right? Anything is possible. Okay, anything is possible. There are people out there who are learning to code, build apps and websites just watching YouTube videos. And then there are
Exactly.
also people, there are also people who go for a course on coding, but they still can't write code and they still can't build a website, right? Because just recently on TikTok, I was doing a live with a guy who is completely self-taught, completely. He's leather crafting. He makes handmade wallets, bags, watch straps, all of that completely learned on his own. Even in terms of getting the tools, he has found how to make it. From that point forward, he has learned coding and built his own website, right? He has built his own payment gateways. He has learned photography, taken his own photographs of his products and uploaded it. All right. He has learned marketing. He runs his own Facebook ads, right? He knows marketing, all of that. Using all that he learned to build his company, not only does he thrive in his company, now he does digital marketing consulting for other people and digitech consulting because the guy has learned everything. And all he has is his A levels. That's it. Nothing else. He hasn't studied anything else. And he doesn't believe, in fact, in paying to learn. What he said was, I believe that degrees show your teacher's skills, not yours, which I thought was, kind of, I've not heard that before. I found that quite fascinating. So,
But go ahead.
yeah, so I mean, that's the thing. For me, if you can identify, or if you can try to identify or get on this journey of finding your passion, finding your purpose, and leading a life that is true to your purpose while living your passion, that is a beautiful, sweet spot to be in. And whatever the skills, whatever the knowledge you need to acquire in order to be the person who can be at that place, that I strongly believe you can do. Because if you have your purpose and you're doing what you're passionate about, nothing is going to stop you from going out there, especially in this day and age, on the internet and finding anything you need, maybe even putting a bit of money down to learn the skills that you need, putting a bit of money down to try things out, run a few Facebook ads, whatever that might be, for you to figure out how it works. And I know that every human being can get there. So that's why I don't give too much importance to potential, because number one, I've seen more people than I can possibly mention or remember or imagine who have potential, who've done nothing. And I've also seen people who have nothing who've done amazing things, right? And that's why I feel like potential is not a determinant of your success.
Well said there, Shoaib. So ultimately, passion, purpose, and potential, like though they could be also discussed in isolation, actually they are all very, very interconnected. And then you really hammered it there in terms of, especially in the day and age that we live in. There's really no real excuse to say why a person can't do something because there's a so much resources out there in the internet. You can learn to code, you can learn to do your marketing, you can learn absolutely anything for free on the internet. But of course, you can, take the extra step as well by, if you want paying a buck or two. But the word is out there. It's just who is willing to take that first step to consume the relevant material in order to upgrade themselves, rather than looking at, say, the next iPhone or whatever. So along those lines, Shuaib, something that I was thinking about as well. So we know the people about, who are, I would say, fortunate to have their passion and purpose aligned so that they could reach their full potential. But on the same note, there are also a group of people who are finding it a little bit tough, and sometimes slugging it out. I'm like using this term in purpose as well, slugging it out, just working, endlessly working, while not properly aligned to, or perhaps not even finding their purpose as well, could be sometimes dreading. And the person could find him or herself in a place not too great physically, perhaps not too great mentally as well. So that is something,
Definitely.
not a great place to be. We'll touch on that as well. But on the same note, sometimes understanding the main values a person has could really help in terms of identifying and dissecting to know the respective purpose that they want to achieve. So values is something that I feel everyone has it, be it integrity, be it honesty, be it, empowering people, so on and so forth. Everyone has their own set of values. So what are your thoughts on values? Why is it important? And why identifying a person's order or priority of values helps them in making some important decisions that would be so useful in their lives, and perhaps would bear like so much fruit later on in life, and especially in terms of making those decisions that are related to finding their passion and purpose. Your thoughts on that, Shuaib?
Yeah, most definitely. Values is something that I would place utmost importance. And I think you nailed it when you said that everyone has values, right? And I believe that everyone has all values. And the only thing that differs is where about on the continuum of that particular value are you. Some people are 80%, on the continuum of integrity, while some are at 20 or 15. So what that would mean in a practical example is you might not have that much integrity in a situation where you feel, being straightforward and honest will put you in trouble. But you might have integrity in a situation where you know that even though people know, you didn't do a great job, that it's all right. It won't have a detrimental impact on you. So values are basically your northern star. They are your guidance. They are what stop you from doing anything and everything to get to where you want to. And to me, success in this life is someone who gets anywhere. I'm going to even be really loose here and say anywhere, but gets there within their values. And I say this because when I read autobiographies of people like, namely Steve Jobs, right? For example, Steve Jobs. So when I look at the lifestyle of Elon Musk, there are certain things that I don't agree with that they did, right? We all know it's an open fact. Steve Jobs was not nice to his employees. He wasn't an easy person to work with. And some people argue that he could not have achieved what he achieved unless he was as brutal as he was to people, right? Now, that's open for debate because, at the end of the day, everything we did is what got us to where we are. But to me, even if Apple didn't exist, or if I was Steve Jobs and I had to stay true to my values of, say, empathy, of kindness, of love, of patience, of understanding, so on and so forth. And as a result of me doing that, Apple never came into existence, I'll still be okay with it. But if I founded something as big as Apple, but I did it by compromising my values, I don't think I'll be okay with that. Because what I always tell people is this life is a never-ending game. It's a never-ending game. All right, Apple might be the world's most valuable company right now, but there's no guarantee that they will always be the world's number one, right? And there is no guarantee that even Apple products will have the love that it has forever. There's no such guarantee. Right? We've seen the examples of Kodak. We've seen the examples of Garmin. How they were like there was nobody in sight. And today they are not in sight, right? And that really humbles us. That should humble us. It definitely should humble us, right? And when you look at it that way, if no one can ever be, there is no one who's a winner in life. There's no such thing as winning in life. All of us die. Some of us are ahead at some point in a certain area, and some of us are not. We're behind. I'll take the example of Bill Gates. People would say Bill Gates is a successful person. Well, I would argue, on what basis? We all know that recently Bill Gates went through a divorce. So something didn't work out with his relationship with his spouse. Now, I'm not saying that therefore he's less of a human being or he's not a valuable person. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, what do we mean by success? Does success only mean the company he built? Does success only mean his relationship with his wife? Because if it was only that, then he's a failure because it didn't work out, right? But if it's only company, it's all right, even though his marriage failed. So my point is, these measures, they don't really mean anything. They don't. They're man-made measures, right? So no one can win in this game of life. No one can win, right? Bill Gates was the richest at one point. He's not the richest anymore. Elon Musk is now, if I'm not mistaken, the highest net worth. He will not be forever the person with the highest net worth, right? So then what are we chasing? These are all infinite roles that we're playing. Business is a game that never ends. Life, okay, you may die, but it hasn't
Life
come
goes
to an
on.
end yet. Life goes on. Exactly, right? So for me, in that situation, in accepting that reality, which is undeniable, then the only thing that will set us apart from each other is our values. It's our values. Because I could have a failed company, but true to my values, right? Whereas there could be somebody who was doing the same similar nature and is the best in the industry, but they did it by compromising all their values, right? So for me, I'd rather be the one who doesn't achieve these arbitrary goals and measurements of profitability and number one in quality and all of these things, which are, again, very subjective. And I'd rather be somebody who is true to my values than somebody who is successful in the eyes of, society. So for me, values is probably, if not the most important thing that governs us through all of this, because we spoke about passion, we spoke about purpose, we spoke about potential, and the truth is we could spend this entire life just trying to find it and die and not really find it. So then what does that mean? Does that mean we're failures? No, it doesn't, right? But if you went that entire journey by being true to your values, even when it hurt, even when it wasn't profitable, right? Even when it wasn't in your favor, right? Even when it cost you so much, but you still stood true to your values. Now that's something that I feel is what defines true success.
Well said there, Shuaib. I mean, ultimately, you need to be able to live with yourself as well. And at the end of the day, you should be able to sleep at night without knowing that you have not hurt anyone intentionally or unintentionally.
Exactly,
And I think
exactly. And I truly believe that every human being knows if something is right or wrong. We already know it, right? We definitely know it, right? If somebody, I always take the example of smoking. People who smoke come up with a lot of reasons to justify it. They say it's my life. It's what I'm doing. I'm not hurting anybody else. Okay, fine. If it's passive smoking, I'll smoke in a place where no one else is around. So on and so forth. 101 reasons. And some people come up with the thing. What smoking is what funds public education. So people should be grateful that I'm smoking. all kinds of explanations, right? And the funny thing about the human mind is we're using our intellect to hide the truth. Right? The same intellect that we use to overcome challenges, difficult situations, to rise above situations and all of that. It's the same intellect that we use to justify things which are very blatantly and clearly bad. Nobody can say smoking is good for you. Okay, people might say smoking brings me happiness. It's subjective. Okay, fine. We can't argue with that. But the research is evident that it's going to damage your brain, right? The physiological structure of your brain. It's going to damage your physical health in every sense of the way. Right? There's no argument in that. And if there's people's passive smoking, you're definitely damaging their health as well. Right? So it's there. But my point is, even if none of this was there, I believe that if a person sits down, closes their eyes, leaves aside society's judgment, leaves aside their desires in this world, and asks themselves, is what I'm doing the right thing to do? You already know the answer. Right? Often what we do is we yet go and ask other people because we want external validation. We want that external validation, right? And the funny part is we already know what we're going to do. And if the person gives a point of view which is against us, we will use our intellect to justify why he's wrong. which kind of defies the whole purpose of going and asking people. But we're just looking for that external, because we're social creatures, right? So we want to get that external validation. So I genuinely and truly and wholly believe that all of us inside of us already know, right? Already know. And the other example I give is, say your company gives you 100,000 rupees to buy stuff for an office party, right? And you go, you spend all of the money on you take the expense for your transport, purchasing, all of that. So then you come back to the office and you have to hand over, the remaining money, and you have 500 rupees remaining. 100,000, 500 rupees remaining. Small amount, right? And in that moment, you're thinking, okay, this company earns billions of bucks. I worked so hard for this company. Plus, I did all the work. What? I'll keep the 500. No big deal. What is 500 bucks, right? And that is what, in fact, Simon Sinek calls ethical fading, the start of ethical fading. That's the beginning of the fading of your values and of your ethics. That 500 rupees will one day multiply into something much bigger because you allowed it to grow inside of you, right? And that's why I always encourage myself, firstly, and everyone else to be unconditional when it comes to your values. It's like a virus. If you let it come in, it starts growing. And with every bad decision, every compromise you make, your heart gets a little bit darker. And before you know it, you have people who are at a stage that we look at and say, how could any human being even do that? Well, It didn't happen overnight. It began with that 500 bucks.
Then at the end of the day, like, we should be able to look at ourselves in the mirror and recognize recognize our reflection. So 100%. I think, I can't remember when, but the Wolf of Wall Street, I can't remember his real name. I went through an interview where he was telling about how it didn't like that process. Like, I think we know the history already and how the fraudulent activities that were done. But it all started with one small thing, and how he was narrating on how ultimately he didn't even know it, but that each small thing built up and gradually it was like full-blown fraud. So
exactly.
I think it's an amazing point that you like. I think we touched on so many amazing points there, Shuaib. So it's about, at the end of the day, we should be aligned with our own values, and we should be able to live with ourselves and look at the person we're looking at in the mirror and recognize our own reflection. Because if the person that we're seeing in our reflection is different, we need to take a pause there. So, this is deep, man. So, Shuaib, so couple of points that we touched on earlier on, not everyone really finds that sweet spot. And sometimes not finding that sweet spot can take a person down a not so great path, sometimes a dark place that not everyone would like to be in. So, and especially perhaps touching on the mental health segment, because I feel this is really unaddressed and not a lot of people really want to talk about their mental health. And I would say mental health is as important as physical health. For instance, the heavyweight champion Tyson Fury just had a really really tough time because of his mental health, where he almost committed suicide. Likewise, Ryan Garcia took a break out of boxing despite being undefeated just to fix his mental health. So how important is mental health, and why should people not, create problems on themselves? Like, don't create their own problems just because they don't have everything aligned, because finding your passion, finding your purpose, so on and so forth takes time. And why should people really look after themselves and make sure that they look after themselves so that they could really ultimately find their passion, purpose, and reach their potential?
Well, I think the importance of taking care of your health is understanding that it is this vessel that you use to go on this journey of life, right? And number one, if the vessel can't go that far, then you're not going to get that far. And number two, if the vessel has holes and dents and all, you might get there, but it's not going to be, as much of, a joy ride. And you might not actually be able to go the distance. And I think that is why you need to take care of your health, right? And in terms of your mind, right? In terms of your mind, it's like your GPS, right? So if you're going to have a broken GPS, then you're going to be going a lot. You might even travel a lot, but you're never going to get to where you want to get to. right? So I think in a nutshell, that's why it's important to take care of your health. But moving on to, what is mental health, and, is it important, or how important it is rather, is on a recent interview as well, what I said was, for me, mental health is like physical health, right? It is, again, not a destination, it's a journey, and all of us are on a continuum. Some of us have great mental health, some of us have decent mental health, some of us have, mental health that needs a lot of work, right? And no one has perfect health, and nobody has absolutely, non-existent mental health. We're all on this continuum, right? And why mental health is important, why having practices to maintain and develop your mental health. I think this is, in fact, the most neglected area, the sort of maintenance as well as development. Because right now, we're talking about how alien the topic of mental health is. We're talking about how it's a stigma, but we're still only talking about acceptance and treatment. We're still talking about only acceptance and treatment, right? Well, what I'm talking about is not just acceptance and treatment, because both of those are what comes as a result of having bad mental health. But I'm talking about maintenance and development, so you won't have to even come to that third stage, right? It's the same thing that with health and fitness, right? The pharmaceutical industry is one of the largest in terms of the billions of rupees that are being earned, spent, so on and so forth, right? But pharmaceutical industry is still a cure. It's not a prevention for the cure, right? And unfortunately, they're amongst the most powerful organizations in the world, and they do their best to make sure that the prevention industry does not rise, because that's not profitable for them. That is not profitable for them, right? For as long as you're sick, you need medication, and as long as you have medication, their profits are going to be met, right? And pharmaceutical industry is one of those industries that people exorbitantly even increase prices, because they know that if you're sick, you need to buy the medicine. You'll even sell something you have at home and buy it, right? So mental health is the same. It's not just about it's not just about curing and accepting and talking about mental health diseases. It's also talking about what are the practices we need to follow to maintain, if not even develop, your mental health. And the way I present this analogy is always, if you take your physical health, even the world's fittest, strongest human being still catches a cold or a cough, right? No one is 100% immune from any disease, right? Same with mental health. No matter how strong you are, no matter what regimen you have for your mental health, you will feel stress, you will get anxiety, you could feel levels of depression, right? All of these are very much human elements inside of you. But the difference in the healthy man, the super fit, ultra strong human being, is number one, chances of him catching a cold or a fever or a cough are less. Number two, if he or she catches a cold or a cough or fever, their immunity system will help them fight it faster, right? Same thing is true for mental health. The person who has good, strong mental health is not immune from, being depressed, anxious, or any of these other, emotions that you might have. But the chances of that affecting them are lower. And if it does affect them, their ability to come out of it is greater. That is, in the most simplest way, the way I can explain why mental health is important, and also emphasizing on the fact that prevention is better than cure.
Well said there, Shuaib. I think a lot of especially students, I feel they go through a really tough time during like say from O level onwards, where there's so much pressure on them, to do well, their O levels, their A levels, get into university, so on and so forth. But of course, not forgetting people who have gone past them as well. But perhaps they really don't know what it is, in perhaps that unawareness about why they should really protect that sanctity of their mind, in terms of not just, like you very correctly said as well, not just that prevention part, but really looking after it in terms of developing it to perhaps take it to an elevated state where they could use their mental health in terms of its position to help others as well. So in terms of people who are in I would say a rough spot, how could they find help? And two, how could coaching in a way help people find that sweet spot in terms of getting to one really optimizing their mental health, as well as, and on the flip side of it, really helping them find their purpose, really align their values, find their passion, so on and so forth.
Right. So I mean, whenever somebody asks a question in this area, I always start by being, very clear with the fact that if you are somebody who's going through a mental illness, be it depression or anxiety, that it is important for you to seek medical help, meaning clinical
Mm,
medical help. Right. And through my personal experience of being somebody who had an anxiety disorder and took the route of taking medication, I would always encourage, if you can please try the non-medication route first. And I mean, let the medical professionals guide you on what's most needed. But that's just a personal, sharing of what I learned in hindsight. I burnt my fingers and learned that, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing, in terms of what you said on how a coach can help and so on and so forth. So all of us go through rough spots in our life, right? And what I always tell people is, we're very quick to outsource things in our companies that we feel someone else can do better for us
mm,
for the sake of the overall company doing better. But when it comes to hiring a coach, be it in your fitness, be it a life coach, who's somebody who's dedicating their life towards their profession, hence quite naturally they'll have economies of scale if you're comparing it to a BPO, right, who's going to have economies of scale in the topic, and also have had dealt with more number of people going through similar, maybe slightly different but similar issues. They're in a better position. I'm not saying they're perfect, but they're in a better position to help you develop that area that you do not specialize in. But we're so backward when it comes to putting down some money for a coach, right? But like you correctly said, when it comes to upgrading your iPhone, though it's a lot more, in fact, than hiring a coach, you don't think twice. You'd even swipe your credit card and you go for it because you want to upgrade, you want to stay relevant, you want to make sure that you can utilize all the latest apps, and so on and so forth, shoot the best quality video. But like you asked, what about yourself? What about your mind? What about your body? Don't you want your mind, your body, your soul to also be at the latest update, right? To also be able to do all that is in your human potential? Do you not want that? Right. And it's funny because the amount of money you're invariably going to spend being that person who is lost, who's not happy with your life, is definitely going to outweigh the cost of your coach. Just like a company that tries to hug on all of the functions, compromises what it's good at just by trying to do things it's not good at. Right. Take Nike for an example. Right. They outsource as much as possible. Right. Accounts is not what Nike is known for. Why would they want to hug on to their accounts department, keep it in-house and struggle and worry about all of that? Hire the best accounts company in the world, pay them good money. You can then focus on your product, which is your main selling point, and you can earn 2, 3, 4 times what you're paying those people. Right. We think of that in business. I always tell people, if we treat our lives like our jobs, man, we would do really well. Right. But we treat our jobs way more important than our lives. All right. So same story when it comes to hiring a coach. Why are we so backward to put down some money for our own development, right? Development that's going to help you do even better in your job, even better in your family life, right? And even you to elevate your state of your mental health, right? Your ability to think, to live a life of meaning, a life of impact, a life of purpose, right? And invariably, what you're chasing is that after all. But when there's somebody who's willing to guide you to get there, you're like, no, no, no. Like, I don't think I need to pay someone for that. Let me try to do some stuff, to calm myself down and go for a bit of exercise. And you can do a pretty good job. You can do a pretty good job. I'm not saying, just like Nike can manage to do accounts, right? But that is going to invariably take out of your time, right? And obviously, you're going to try things to figure out what works, whereas a coach may already know what works, right? So that would be my perspective on coaching. Right? And because I believe so much in investing in your health, be it mind, body, or soul, is why I have made it my passion. I've made it my purpose. I've made it my profession, everything. Because I believe that if I fully immerse myself in that, I'm in a better position to give back to the people, to empower the people, to build lives that they too wake up early morning, passionate to live, not hating to go, going back to work the next day. What kind of a life is that? Right. So what kind of a life is that? I mean, it takes time, it takes work, it does take some money as well, but it is worth every penny.
Well said there, Shuaib. I think we covered so much ground. I think we've gone over time as well. Uh, Perhaps let's one last question before we really wrap up. So, three people come and knock your door, Shuaib. One person is undergoing is perhaps in that early stage crisis in their life, early life crisis, if I put it that way. And then the next person is undergoing midlife crisis, questioning themselves, what did I choose, that make those right decisions back in the day. And the last person is in that state where they're undergoing late life crisis after they have actually lived the bulk of their life, and now finding it hard to decide what they want to do. What
Who
would
will
you
I
tell
help?
each of them? So maybe go to it
Okay,
really
whoa.
fast.
That's a better question. I was worried. I thought you were going to ask me to pick one of the three people if I could help only one person.
So maybe really quick, one undergoing early life crisis, let's say perhaps just after university, what do I do? I don't know what to do in that stage.
Hmm.
One in
Yeah.
undergoing midlife crisis, kind of
Midlife.
doubting their own decisions, and
Yeah.
late life crisis. Over to you,
Late life
Shiv.
crisis. All right.
I'm really
Super.
curious, man.
So I'll keep it short because I think that might be a bit more interesting. The first one person is early life crisis. Try more things, right? Try more things. Most people often are having early crisis, myself as well, who had massive early crisis in life, was the lack of trying things because I overpressured myself thinking I need to figure it now. There's no such thing,
Mm.
right? That's for early life. For midlife crisis, I would say slow down, right? Because you've lived a reasonable amount of time, and chances are you've already found your passion. Chances are you've
Mm.
already experienced something that triggered you or sparked you, but because of the external noise, you've turned down the internal volume. So I'd say turn up the internal volume and turn down the external volume. That's what I
There
would
you
say
go.
for someone who is in their midlife, right? And then for somebody who's in their latter stage of life, I would, at that point in time, assuming they don't have much time to make a drastic change, I would encourage them to start developing perspective for the life that they lived so far, right? For the life that they lived so far, right? Because I think at that point in time, you're not going to have too much time to change things. But if you can at least come to terms with what you've been with, right? And maybe that perspective will help you live whatever remaining time that you have. At least then doing what you believe is the impact you want to have. Because at that point in time, you could even do something like sharing all the mistakes you made for those 75 years, and that in itself is going to be a service to the people. And if you can be happy that, you know what, I made all these mistakes so that I can teach people I made this so they won't have to go through it, and I'm happy I could be of service to them. That's why perspective.
There you go. I think we touched on it right at the very beginning as well. How being of service to others is that one thing that could really light up the room anywhere in the world for any person. So we basically gone full circle. And thanks a lot for your time there, Shuaib. So do everyone out there, do check out Shuaib. And Shuaib, perhaps if you could just also share where could they find you in terms of social media, be it TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. Where could they find you, and where could they hear more about the amazing stuff that you do as well?
So you can pretty much find me, if I'm not mistaken, on every social media platform right now. I go as at Shuaib Jabbar, same spellings as my name. I am mostly present though on TikTok and Instagram, but I do look into LinkedIn as well. But I'm also available on Twitter, Clubhouse, YouTube, and all of that as well. So, but if you want my attention real fast, I'd say Instagram DM specifically, but if not, even TikTok or Instagram, I do it.
There you go. So I'll put all those links down below. And thanks a lot, everyone, for tuning in. And have a great day. Thanks a lot, Shuaib, and have a great day as well.
Thank you so much, not just for having me, but for helping us co-create value, right? I genuinely believe that this was a co-creation. So thank you so much. It's been an honor to be on your show, and please continue doing this. Because I believe just like we discovered so much in this discussion, I'm sure you discovered so much with your other guests as well as the guests to come. So please just put it out there, because people who are searching to achieve their best, people who are trying to be the best they can be and give the best that they can in the short life that they have, will definitely find these gems and they will implement them in their lives. So please keep doing this, keep sharing. I really hope this stuff goes super viral. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Shuaib. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed and learned from this discussion just as much as I did. If you have not done so already, I really appreciate if you'd subscribe to the channel below and do like the video if you feel that you found it quite useful. Also, do let me know in the comments which part of it that you found the most useful, as well as what are the other areas that we could perhaps discuss and other areas that we could explore. Also, let me know in the comments below other areas that I could improve as well. So until next time,